Hey everybody, Steve Thornton here, welcome back. So today, coming to you from my kitchen table. So this video is going to be about servicing Baitcaster reels. What I do every winter, I tear them down, I clean them, I lube them, put them back together, and for the whole next year, they fish as good or better than they did when they were brand new. So my buddy Bobby gave me 3 reels to do. I've already done my own, so he asked me to make a video on it. So see if we can get that done today. For starters, I'll show you what you need. I recommend using a cell phone to take pictures as you go. That way, if you forget where anything went, it's pretty easy to have a reference with photos. Sorry about the shaky camera, I'm going to be moving it around some. So we have our reel. I put a piece of black electric tape on the spool, and just because it's already spooled up. But you're going to need a really fine towel, like a microfiber. Even the terry cloth seems to have too big of a knit, so it's easy to lose some of the small screws and stuff in it. You're going to need a 10mm wrench and 2 small Phillips head screwdrivers. I've got a flat tip here just in case I need it. Some reel oil and some reel grease. I prefer the Ardent reel butter myself. It's easy to use. The reel oil, I believe, is H2O Express brand. You're going to want some Q-tips. You're going to want paper towels and some rubbing alcohol. I've got a little Tupperware dish here. I can set stuff in, or I can squirt some alcohol in if I want to dip my Q-tip. And that's pretty much it. I've got the scissors out just for cutting the tape off, so I don't have to tear it when I'm doing the spools. So I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible. It's not a short job. I like to think it should only take about 30 minutes to do it. Once you get comfortable with the reels, the more you do, the quicker and easier it gets. However, usually the process ends up taking an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. Don't let that intimidate you. I try to take my time when I'm taking the stuff apart and putting it back together, so I do it correctly. Alright, so I apologize for all the background noise. I'm at home. The whole family's here. We're snowed in with about 12 or so inches in Oklahoma. So we're going to get right down to it. For starters, we're going to take this Phillips head small screwdriver, and we're going to start with the reel. You want everything pretty much backed off before you start. You want to back your drag off, have it nice and loose, have this cover here on your spool bearing nice and loose. There's a small Phillips head screw that's going to be on probably every reel to act as this little plastic piece locks this nut in so that it can't unscrew while you're reeling. And that sucker is in there tight. Okay, little bitty tiny screw. Now this cap should pop off like that. So as I take these apart, I'm going to leave everything on my towel in the order that I took it off. Now I stopped the video and I grabbed a flashlight because even with the window open in front of me, the lighting in here gets pretty hard to see the little stuff. This should normally be a 10mm size. So you're going to just hold your reel. You're going to unscrew this. There's not a lot of threads on it, so keep some pressure going into the reel because there's a spring behind this reel handle. So I'm going to set that down. Here's your reel handle. Set it on the towel. Your drag washer, there's a spring. Alright, now you're going to have a square nut right here that shouldn't be any more than finger tight. Pay attention on the back side of this. So there's a groove on this side where this spring sits. Okay, and on this one it's a straight spring. Some reels look like they have more of a concave shaped spring. So when I take this off, there's at least one copper washer on top of that. So I'm going to set it on my towel, back that up a little, and I'm going to leave that copper washer on top of it so I know they go together. Then you're going to have two very small washers here that are both concave. So I will take them off. They're not flat, so they're made to put pressure on each other. I'll try to show you. There's a small gap, so they're basically, they look like this when they're pushed against each other. What you don't want to do, you don't want them both like that or both like that. You want to make sure that if the square inside hole on them is lined up, that you have some sort of a, like a C to C shape there. Now inside there is a bearing. We're not gonna mess with that yet. There's a sleeve. What I do have here is on the outside of that is a very small, another washer. So it doesn't want to come yet. That's where when things fall off that you don't know where they came from, that's when this job can get stressful. But it's pretty easy. So all this is here, super tiny little washer, thin, and it acts kind of as a cap on the outside of your bearing, just to hold everything in place. So I'll show you the... Okay. Continuing on. So if you take this cap off, and in my opinion, I usually don't even do that when I'm servicing the reels. There's a little C or E clip in there, and there's a spool bearing inside there. And I usually will leave that on. There's a square felt pad inside of a round hole, and that's just designed to, I guess, help adjust the tensioning knob. So I leave the tensioning knob on there. And now we're going to open her up and start disassembling. We still got our spool in, and I'll start the video back. Alright, so we're going to open the side plate here. Now, before you open the side plate, look at where your, if you have an adjustment wheel, this is a Shimano Corrado, it's a Shimano Corrado 200 HG, which is the high gear ratio at 7.4. I'm going to back this brake off all the way back, as low as I can get it. There's one, I'll see, okay. So one's as far down as it goes, there is no zero. So we're going to open the spool. This has a keeper on it, so the door doesn't fall off if you ever have to open it up. Here's your internal spool brakes. He has two of them flipped out, two of them up. The two that are flipped out are the two that are operating. So we're going to try to pull the spool out, and it may not work because I have tape on the spool. It may be too much. She is going to be a little tight. Okay, spool's out. Alright, so we're going to set the spool down here. And then, now what we need to do is we need to take this side plate off. Okay, so right quick, I'm going to go over the 4 screws it takes to remove this side plate. Alright, so you're going to have Phillips head, Phillips head. There's a Phillips head inside right here that you're going to have to get to. And then as long as your release is up, you'll see there's a little tiny one in the very bottom there. So 4 total. You want to remember the silver screw goes in the spool here. The rest of them are black. And these two, I believe, on the bottom are the same, and then you'll have a little tiny one here. Alright, so when I loosen these, I recommend breaking them free, but don't take them out until you get them all three, or at least the three bigger ones, broken free. And these are real aggressive screws, so it may require a little bit of effort pushing so that you don't round the screw head out. Okay, so I'm loosening these off. Now I'm on this very last one here, which is the tiny little pinhead screw. You don't want to lose them. You generally will, they won't just always fall out on you. You'll have to actually put your screwdriver on to get them out. Okay, so here's the smallest of them, which is a tiny little pinhead screw. So I'm going to set it down. I'm going to do this like if I had the reel sitting on the table looking at it. I'm going to try to keep them in that order. Now while you do this, you want to again keep some pressure holding the reel together. It's not going to fly apart or anything, but it'll just keep everything nice and lined up. There's the silver screw. Now I can put this back on and lock it so that I have plenty of room. I'm taking the bottom front screw out. And then the other bottom front screw, which might be small. I'm sorry, the bottom rear screw is the last one I'm taking out. Okay, those two are the same size. So I'm going to flip the camera around and show you the towel. So that's basically the order that I took them out. The one inside the spool, the bottom, the two bottoms are there, and the little bitty one that goes in the very back under the release lever is there. Alright, now I'm going to move my tools out of the way. And I apologize, I don't know the names of all the parts here. What we're going to do is we're going to slide this other plate up off the reel very gently, slowly. And it should look just like this. Now, if you notice, here's another washer. That washer goes on the inside on top of this sleeve. So I'm going to set my cap down, then I'm going to take my copper washer, set it down. I'm going to take my little sleeve off. It's got two teeth on the bottom, and there's teeth inside your drag washer there. So alright, I'm going to point the camera down. So if you look inside here, that sleeve I just took off was right here. And it's used to engage your main bearing and all that. Now, you have two little springs here, so you're going to want to pull them off one at a time. Set them on your towel. This is where I should be taking pictures, and I'm not. I probably have 1,000 pictures in my phone somewhere from where I've done this before. Alright, we're going to go ahead. At this point, we're going to pull this whole drag washer and main gear off as a unit. Now, there's a star washer underneath there. So I'm going to set this whole thing down as a unit. Then notice on this piece, this is like a little saddle, and it holds your gear. that turns your main gear. So when you pull it out, notice this other piece that's with it. There's the little saddle piece. It has to go back in the same direction it came out. So it'll sit in there. And I apologize for the video quality. So you got the tooth gears going down, and I'll set them down. But this piece here is your saddle piece, and it has two edges that are concave, and they're made that when they sit in there, and this is the easy way to remember how it goes. When you push your button down, it causes it to ride up, because you have what you're doing is matching. The white has an angled edge, and the black has an angled edge going the opposite direction. So when you push down on your handle or your spool release, that lets it ride up on there nice and smooth. If you get that in there upside down, then you got problems. So this is actually about as far as I tear the reel down on a normal cleaning. I really don't think there's any need to completely finish taking all this stuff out. Now in this side plate here, all you have is you have a spool bearing here, and you have your bearing here, which happens to ride on this shaft, and I believe on this sleeve. I'm not 100% certain on that, but let's see. So I pretty much leave this cap the way it is. I'm going to clean it. We're going to lube it, but I don't disassemble it. So now we're going to get to work on cleaning. The other thing we have is we've got our worm gear here in the front that will clean it, that spools your fishing line back on your spool correctly. So we're going to clean that up, and we're going to lube in there. But we're not going to take it out. To take that out, you've got to take all these gears out, and with the routine maintenance, I just think it's a little excessive on how much you're tearing down into this thing and trying to get everything back perfect when you're done.